Now, the rumor mill is running at full steam, as you heard a hot second ago. The din and the clamor have not stopped around the notion that an agreement to form a new coalition under the umbrella of a party of national unity could become reality within a few weeks. That proposed coalition has brought together seminal opposition leaders such as Atiku Abubakar, Peter Obi and Nasir El-Rufai. It's not clear yet which party they'll unite under, but reports suggest it could be the African Democratic Congress, or ADC, or the Social Democratic Party, or SDP, or perhaps even a new party. But beyond the platform, the question remains, can these opposition stalwarts unite around one grand leader who can carry everyone along? If so, who might that be, and what chance does he have of unseating President Tinubu in 2027? Well, let's get the perspective of our guest commentator, who will assess much of what you've heard on the program today and hopefully help us understand the issues better. And he is Arise News analyst and former chairman of the editorial board of Daily Trust newspaper, Mahmud Jega. Great to see you again.
Thank you very much, Charles.
What details are you hearing about this proposed coalition and its moves to adopt a political platform on which to contest the 2027 presidential election?
Not much more than what you just enumerated. The reports coming out of the meeting they held last time was that there is already some agreement about coming together in one political platform. Now, which one that should be is probably yet to be determined. Some said there was a move towards ADC. Some said at the meeting, the former governor of Kaduna, Nasir El-Rufai, made a presentation arguing for SDP to be that platform. And some of the people said, no, let's form a brand new party. I can see why those are important issues, because there are both advantages and disadvantages to going into a pre-existing party and to forming a brand new party. Each one has some advantages and also some disadvantages.
But of course, whichever party it is that they eventually adopt, or perhaps, as you said, form a new party, is simply going to be a vehicle that will be used to contest the election. So no ideology, no messianic vision, nothing really apart from seizing power, is there? Or do you think it might be different this time?
Especially because the time is so short. As the ADC chairman just said, we have just 1 year to the primaries and then less than 2 years to the next general election. So there is very little time left for proper building of a cohesive political party with a clear identity and program. But it's okay, because the ruling party now, APC, was formed in 2013, just 2 years before the 2015 general election.
Indeed.
And it ended up winning the presidency and many states. Although I must say that...
of course, your brother was the chairman of the Electoral Commission at the time.
Probably that was a factor. But the biggest factor in 2015 was the coming together of the opposition, which is what the opposition leaders are trying to do now. Now, unfortunately, they seem to lack some of the things that made CPC a success in 2013, the way I see it. For example, CPC had two very overwhelming political figures. It was clear that General Buhari could command millions of votes in the north, and then you had
the core north,
and then you had Asiwaju, who was in control of the ACN party, which had most of the governors and party structures in the southwest. So you can see that if you can bring those two together, and also everyone could see that, okay, this is likely to be the party leader. It was difficult that time to displace Buhari, given the kind of grassroots support. Although people contested against him at the APC convention in Lagos in 2014. But Kwankwaso contested, Atiku also contested, but they all knew that for the party to have a chance of winning, this is the kind of guy that we should put forward. And also, then you have the second largest person, Asiwaju, was realistic enough to say, let us leave it to this guy for now.
And that's very important.
Very important. Yeah. Very important. So that's why I said it doesn't look as if the present opposition leaders have the same kind of advantages that, although there are also other factors that I'm thinking of.
But I mean, that's a very important point you make. And that brings me to this question, because there are two very big competing titans there, namely Atiku Abubakar and Peter Obi, and possibly others.
Yeah.
Can a coalition work between them, which would require one person to step down for the other in terms of the presidential ticket?
That is the most critical question, Oga Charles. When you think about it, Atiku Abubakar was vice president for 8 years, so he cannot possibly aspire to anything else
but the
other than the presidency.
Yeah.
You may not say the same of Mr. Peter Obi, since the highest position he held was governor, but he did so well in the last presidential election. Now, the way I see it, the problem with aligning these two figures in particular is that their support base may not be transferable, because Atiku Abubakar won most of the northeastern and also majority of the northwestern states in the last election. If he were to step out of the race, because that's the only thing he couldn't possibly be running mate again. He can only step out, maybe become board of trustees chairman or something. I am not sure he will be able to transfer the support he garnered in 2023, let's say, to Mr. Peter Obi, if he were to concede the ticket to him, and vice versa. If Mr. Peter Obi steps down for Atiku Abubakar, the way I see it, the obedient movement might dissipate. Because really, the main factor that brought it together quickly and so powerfully was the feeling that a southeastern candidate should become president for the first time in this republic.
But also a reliable, I mean, somebody they trusted, somebody they believed in.
Yeah. So if he is not there, well, you may find another person. It's not impossible, even though time is not on the side.
Yes.
But that is the danger that I foresee. If he were to step down, people could even say, why didn't you do that in 2023? Because if you had remained in PDP in 2023, just like 2019, you might have still become Atiku Abubakar's running mate. What has changed since then if you are to step out now? So it is quite possible the rank and file of the obedient movement will be discouraged and disappointed, and he may not be able, you know, he is not, he did very well in the last election, but, you know, he is not the kind of political figure, let's say, of the Obafemi Awolowo or Dr. Azikiwe or Aminu Kano or Joseph Tarka type. Those are the kind of people who had great hold on their supporters, and whatever they said, you can be sure that people will go there. Even General Buhari did not measure up to that. He had all that support, but it was not easy, I think, for him to also transfer. Certainly now he can't transfer. Now maybe his 8-year presidency has dissipated all the. So this is the key problem that I foresee for the opposition leaders. The two main persons there, even the third one, which is Rabi Ukonkoso of Kano, he also has a lot of grassroots following in Kano State in particular. I am not sure he can transfer that easily.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And of course, if they are battling each other for the top spot, or these factors that you mentioned are getting in the way, does that make it easier for President Tinubu to step into that breach and take advantage of their divisions and those problems that you mentioned?
Well, even now, I mean, the PDP is the oldest party in the country. At one point, it was so dominant and everything, but the scheming right now has reduced it almost to a bystander. Anybody can see that the leadership of the APC, of the PDP, is held by the APC. I mean, anybody can see that. The chairman and the working committee are almost entirely in the hands of the serving minister of the FCT. That's why all these people are running. Otherwise, you would have said, look, the PDP is the biggest of the opposition parties, the biggest, the oldest, the most widespread. Why don't we just...
That should have been the one that's bringing everybody
together. That should have been,
together.
exactly.
Yeah.
Everybody should have come in there, but for now, they don't have control of it.
Yeah, that's a very important point. And of course, we mentioned earlier that your brother, Professor Jega, ran that election in 2014, 2015 that saw the APC come into power, that for the first time in the history of this country took incumbency away because of the way that everybody felt that it was a pretty well-run election. Many analysts have suggested that for this coalition that we have right now to have any chance of success in 2027, there must be free and fair elections, something they say has eluded this country for many years now.
Well, there's no doubt that whatever effort the politicians do, if the Electoral Commission were to conduct itself, probably the worst election we had in this republic was probably in 2007, when the results were announced even before the tallying of votes was over. We knew many cases. I was a newspaper editor at the time, and our reporters will phone and say, we are in the collation center, we have just adjourned for lunch, only to be told that watch the television, the results is being announced, because if I remember right, the international election observers scheduled 2 p.m. to hold a press conference and give their interim report for the election. And the Electoral Commission foresaw that they were going to give a damning verdict and rushed to announce the result of the presidential election before that press conference. That was the worst election.
What a mess.
It was a mess, and even the winner of the election, President Erdogan, courageously admitted it and said we should better do some electoral reform. So if you are for any reason going to have something like that in 2027, I pray not, then whatever politicians do probably is immaterial. However, the opposition leaders should do the minimum required, which is coming together, because however good the election was in 2015, if those 4 opposition political parties had not united behind a single candidate, they would never have defeated the incumbent president at the time. So at least do your own part, and then we see what happens with the Electoral Commission.
Mahmud, it's brilliant talking with you, and we're all the wiser for your analysis. Thank you very much indeed. Mahmud Jega is a Rise News analyst and former chairman of the editorial board of Daily Trust newspaper. Good to see you again.
Thank you.
That's it for this edition of Arise Prime Time. Join us again tomorrow. From me and the entire team here in Abuja, bye-bye, and thank you for watching.